Okay, this is session 39, and in all the previous sessions, it may sound like uh, a lot of big theories, floating up there, and in our, I guess, daily life, can we really benefit from the studies of the Taoism teachings? And I guess I could share a little bit on the very recent experience of mine. As I mentioned, I've been working on my garden project, and I erected a gazebo. So I've been building the floor. On this floor, okay, obviously I have different options. Uh, I typically am accustomed to do the perfect planning and execute exactly, as the plan, and try to work out the little problems here and there, but pretty much just end up, the way as I planned. Except for in this garden project, I never could and never did uh, work out as the way I originally planned it. To the point, eventually, I just gave up the planning. As Americans say, just wing it. Okay, uh, purely adaptive approach. Real Taoist. Um, and here's the example. I guess to have all the five fundamental elements in presence, I have got to have something, in wood, in material, you know, uh, in the backyard. So I use the wood beams as the side of the platform, excuse me, of the gazebo. So originally, I was thinking to have two layers of the wood beams, stacking up in four sides, and then secured, locked in, and then fill in with all the different materials. But then I figured out, or I realized, the wood beams, after you put them out there, because you do want them, these are treated so they don't get rotten easily in a short period of time. They're treated, but you put them out there after a year, you can see they are naturally, I guess, changed in form. They're not you know, exactly in a straight line per se. They're crooked a little bit here and there, right? So when you have two wood beams on top of each other, it is next to impossible to kind of match them and get the same shape, in a good ideal line. There's no way. So when you try to put 8 pieces of wood beams in 2 layers stacking up, there's no way you can match them. So what I did, I just took off the base layer, the wood beam, take them away, replaced with the bricks. Why did I want to use brick? Because brick, one by one, you can basically, up and down, in, out, you can adjust their position to meet, where the top layer wood beams are. So, it's kind of more to go along the line defined by the wood beams, in the shape, it is. And that worked out. That worked out. That's very adaptive, right? And then about the floor, my friend told me, oh, you got to make sure this is exactly leveled and really, really solid. Because otherwise, when you put the cement brick, which, you use the mold and make yourself, it's not going to look nice because they're not leveled. So what I did, adaptive, again, was basically to make sure each and every cement brick that I made with the mold are individually placed with the gap in between. Not because I don't have a leveled floor. I did, being a sculpture artist for 40 years. I think I have that trained eyes. So when I look at it, I know it's leveled. And I also use that little, instrument to measure, to make sure, and always get confirmed. Yes, it's leveled. But I don't have this, layer of surface, make it so perfect with sand or whatever else. I didn't have that. It's rough surface. It is leveled, yes, but it's rough surface. That's okay. So what I did, I designed one layer, of a square on the outside, and then the inner ring, they're all different shape. This is one shape square. That's irregular shape. But basically, in between them, there were gaps. And I used the white rocks basically to fill up the gaps. It looked more natural. So in this case, it's purely adaptive. I had no plan per se. I did have some idea, but that idea has been constantly updated, changed, basically depends on what's the situation, the condition, and then change on the go, right? I know eventually what I was looking for, but how to get there, that's different approach. And that's exactly adaptive, as a good Taoist would do, right? I haven't really got the chance to, really practice this on the projects that I worked under contract for the oil companies. And I'm not even sure I want to do that. But for my own little personal project, the impact's all on myself. So yeah, I'm definitely experiencing that, and I do feel, it's fun, and So basically, I guess the point is, you need to accept imperfection, right? And if you do, you start to look at your project totally different, from a totally different angle. And then your taste become different, when you look at this, a little irregularities, you actually think it's better than otherwise this engineering wise perfect. I mean, can you imagine a just pure cement platform or floor for the gazebo? Of course, I'm sure you see that a lot. For me, that's boring. So with my two different, shapes of mold made the cement bricks, and then, separate them in between with the little rocks of irregular shape, but, actually two kinds of rock. One is bigger in, solid white. The other is the kind that's various different color and much smaller in size. But of course they are displayed in different way, in different positions. So that for me is more artistic, but more importantly, more natural, right? So this is the, I guess, a Taoist first taste artistically, but also project, I guess, execution and the adaptive approach. So if you study Taoism teaching and try to use it in your daily life, I think you can make your life a lot easier. And for me, this floor for the gazebo, the way I did now, saved me a lot of, I guess, hard jobs. And it's not just being lazy. It's also, do you look at that, perfect shape, pure cement as the better results as versus, what I did now? It still requires engineering design. I mean, I still have to think about, okay, I need to have certain gaps here and there, from the four sides, make sure if there's some, rainwater, they don't get, stay in the middle of the floor like a reservoir. They have to, leak out through the gaps preserved. And also it has to have some kind of sloping, in certain direction as an engineer. So because we're getting lots of rains in Texas, so the rainwater would go out, through the little almost bayou that I actually dug, three of them to have the garden. Basically, all the rainwater goes out of the garden to the designated place. So of course, there's a little engineering there too, but still, the whole thing. Remember, the Taoist designed garden has to be natural. Everything looks, the more natural it looks, the better it is. And this one, I think, is more natural for me. That's just one example. But then, let's see. I think there are many I guess examples. Let's say today, I know I have a big coffee table. Basically, came in brand new, and was this little this and that marks intentionally made to make it imperfect, like somebody oops messed up. But no, that was artistic. So being able to accept the imperfection, same as like a lot of kids and younger women, wear their jeans brand new they bought from stores with a lot of holes in it, right? That's the imperfection right there. So I guess we can find a lot of examples here and there about the imperfection. And if you accept that, I guess it takes some time. If you're used to, if you're a perfectionist and always want everything come out in a perfect, things in symmetric, line up, and the position here and there. Well, I guess after the study of Taoism teaching, I'm learning to accept a lot of things that's imperfect, nevertheless becomes perfect for me. Because why? They're different. And that's the way, a lot of things, simply just are. If you want to have a lot of perfection, that's great. You're going to spend lots of time and energy chasing and to make it perfect. But guess what? Nothing will stay perfect. You just have constantly labor yourself to get there. Is that so bad? Well, it depends. For me, it is. Okay. I would rather take the time to enjoy myself rather than, going after, if you look at all these paintings hanging there, I can say responsibly, none of them are 100% perfect position. You can always adjust to the perfection. If that bothers you, but does it bother me now? Not really. As long as they're not too obviously crooked, I would accept them, the way they are. They look fine to me. Does this really encourage all this lazy behavior, with this perfect excuse? Maybe. I know there are all different kinds of Mexicans, but here in Texas, when we talk about Mexicans, we always say, oh, Mariana. It's like, actually not all the Mexicans think that way, but hey, if I'm a Taoist, maybe I will adapt to this Mariana, tomorrow, which is, I might just adapt this attitude because I don't want to kill myself, right? There's things that can be done, but why not just one at a time? So right around the time I started to study this Taoism teaching, I started to change myself, because before I always worked like 16 hours a day, regardless that it was my own business, which was most of my time, or, I was under contract working for somebody, or, for a short period of time, I used to work for some companies as employee, on payroll. All the same, for me, I work minimum 12 hours a day, regardless it was my own business, or I was working on contract, or I was just employee work, straight, working for somebody else. Still, nobody need to tell me, what I need to do and what's the standard for me, because they all know I had higher standard than, what they could have for me. But I said for myself. But then I start to, change, because now what I do is I only need to accomplish one thing a day. Okay. I don't need to, like I used to, oh, I would just squeeze everything into it and try to, achieve as much as possible out of one day. And I have a bunch of things, stacking up for next day. It's like, it's like I have no tomorrow. I just have to finish every day today. I'm not like that anymore, because I miss a lot. I remember there was this white guy, my, I guess, customer. Uh, he told me, he said, wait, sometimes you just got to stop and smell the roses. I mean, think about it. I'm a Chinese, or Chinaman, as precisely how I define today. I am. I'm a Chinaman. And then here I needed a gringo to tell me, stop, smell the roses. That's a shame, right? But then you think about it. With all this, Confucianism working, whether you know it or not, all the East Asians, why do they always, work so hard? And they end up with the job that probably pays better, but really they're just slaves of their jobs. Um, I think I would blame on the Confucianism. So this is why Taoism teaching helps me, so I can be happier. Now, it's not like, oh, I just, sit on my ass all day, don't do nothing. No, I still do things, but hey, I want to make sure I have some time reserved to be happy. Okay? I still want to be productive. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, with, enough breaks, you can be actually more productive than you just sit there, try to make yourself, sit for longer. I mean, you can try. It works out for me, right? Anyway, I'll just wrap up this session right here. And until next session, ciao.